Hello everyone and welcome back to Torchlight 2. We're currently in the Rotting Crypt, level 1, and trying to find the fate of Jess's father. This, by the way, is the advantage, or the... one of the uses of the emulation aura. Sorry about that. I just have to walk close to these urns and they automatically break because I'm constantly doing some fire damage to my surrounding, basically. It's also nice for dealing with small enemies, like the spiders and such that spawn. They're more of a nuisance than an actual threat. I should really show you Death's Bounty once in a while. Oh hey. So you're the ghost of Jess's father. That would explain, well, that would explain your fate. So I now have to find the locket in the Rotting Crypt. And next time I see a bunch of enemies close to each other, I'll show you the Death Bounty. Its main purpose would be to use on tightly grouped patches of enemies. Using it on a single enemy is a bit wasteful. I mean, not that I really have to care about that at all. And technically, it always pays for itself through its effect, assuming you can yield the advantages of its effect, which basically requires you to kill the enemy afflicted by it quickly. Okay. So you see those sort of, I guess, projectiles flying towards me from the enemies I kill. Each of those projectiles gives me a bunch of health regen and... Hellfire Club. Sounds cool. It gives me a bunch of health regen and also some mana regeneration. And I don't know if I would ever really need it at this point, just because I have fairly strong equipment. So I might not require the mana regeneration anymore. Remembrance skull. The skulls I'm getting now are high-level skulls. Actually, yeah, I should be getting anything that can drop at level 100. These skulls are actually very nice, 60% bonus to crit damage. If I were using two weapons, instead of the shield, I would be carrying a Netherrealm axe. Those would probably be my main sockets for the second weapon. Because I already have almost 100% crit chance, something like 92 maybe. So I would gain more from speccing more crit damage, because my crits aren't actually as powerful as they could be, I guess. Okay. I did say I was going to go ever so slightly into the comparison between Diablo 3 and Torchlight. I kind of started that last time. But really, only talking about the aspect of enemy design and what they could and couldn't do in each game. Now, just in terms of how much support there is for the game, Diablo 3 is the clear winner of this game because it's developed by an indie developer and it's fairly small. It doesn't see that many patches, it doesn't see many content updates. They only just recently launched it for Mac, so the plan had always been... They'd basically... They'd said there was going to be a Mac version, and then they came across problems when porting it to Mac. And so, I don't know what the problems were, probably specific details of how the platform worked, so something that they had expected to work didn't. But yeah, essentially that took a long time. I think about 2 years now since they announced they were going to do a Mac version, and now that's actually released. So pretty cool. The nice thing is they also gave an 80% discount to the game for a few days on Steam because of the release of the Mac version finally. So I'm still somewhat contemplating buying a copy. I mean, the copy right now that I have is a standard retail copy, so it's got the Runic DRM. And I might just want the Steam version, you know, for achievements and all that. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, basically, just because of how big of a team's working on it, Diablo 3 is constantly being developed. I mean, they've added a lot of actually big features since launch. This game has seen a few things, but mostly little things. I mean, a few new dungeons have been added, a few items have been added, some tile set, as I explained, these Netherrealm portals that you find in the desert in Act 2. Those have actually been added post-launch. Wow, these item tags are a bit glitchy. And there's a gem which I need for something. But yeah, nothing that even comes close to the stuff like the Paragon system or the whole Loot 2.0 thing, or these Nephilim Rifts and the legendary gems and all that stuff they've done in Diablo 3. There's just been a lot more added to the game, it's to be expected considering the team that's working on it and sort of a different mentality about the game. And what they were expecting from it, but still, in terms of active support, yeah, Diablo 3 just clearly wins, so there's no discussion there. But of course, there is another aspect in which, funnily enough, Diablo 3 loses out easily, and that would be mod development. So, I mean, the community in a game like Diablo 3, it's always a little shaky. I've had some really good experiences of really helpful stuff, especially when I was doing the farming guides for those legendary crafting materials, which they then removed from the game, sadly. But yeah, the community was so helpful about those. Part of it probably because the items were soulbound, so. Skull of Vastok, 80% attack speed on weapons. Not bad, but not great. So there wasn't much of an advantage if you were the only one who knew a certain method, but for that the community was just so helpful in sort of collecting information on where to farm the stuff. And, was that thread on, I don't know which forum it was, but basically everyone who found a method to farm anything and who found a new mob that would drop something that hadn't been added yet, it was just the database of where to farm what grew so quickly, and such good methods were developed. That was just one of the things where the community really sort of came through, and you saw how good it can be to have a big community for a game if it's cooperating and everyone's sort of working on the same goal. But at other times you just get people sort of looking up each other's Battle.net profiles, and then, oh, you're not playing on hardcore, you don't get to say anything on this topic. And there's also a lot of flame wars going on, which it's to be expected in a game that's still actively being played. The bigger the game, the more young players there are, and young players are the bane of the community. Players below 16, maybe 18, maybe even 20 in some cases. I mean, it's not all age-related, but the young ones tend to be the worst in terms of, if you haven't done this and that, just go away. Which, especially in the early days, that was also somewhat being promoted by the developers themselves, when... at launch, Diablo 3 really wasn't good. It is really, really fun now. No argument. There's well, is evident by the fact that I've done about 4 playthroughs, or let's say 3.5 playthroughs on my channel. So I've played the pants off the game. Obviously I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't a fun game, but at launch it was a train wreck. It was terrible. It's so... Back in the days, I went to the forums to basically write a review, saying, you know, what I liked, what I disliked. It was a pretty negative review. I mean, I didn't, you know, start insulting or something like that. It was all very civil. I think, in my experience, it would have weakened my point if I had started, you know, saying, oh, this game's crap. I sort of tried to make clear why I thought it was crap, basically. And I didn't use the word crap, I just sort of discussed features that I thought were lacking. Or not thought through properly, stuff that was missing, stuff that they should have not done, things that seemed completely useless and just a terrible idea in general. And I had written that review after having played through the game on... What was Nightmare, I think, was the second difficulty, right? I mean, they've changed that now, so it's a little different, but I think Nightmare was the second difficulty. So, essentially, I had just beaten Diablo for the second time, and just by normally playing through the game, for example, you didn't get good items. So you ended up... If you didn't go back and farm areas over and over again, you would be severely underpowered, and so the only valid tactic to defeat someone like Diablo, a really powerful boss, would be to plop down some sort of turret-like thing. Okay, here's the 2 gems. I need to open the chamber to the, I don't know what his name is, the bad guy who lives here, to find that locket. There's down. So yeah, that was, for example, one of the things I really complained about, that by just playing through normally, you just don't get the equipment you need to play in a fun way. With the equipment that I found, and a tiny bit of money that I'd earned so I could buy some things on the gold auction house, the only valid tactic for me to defeat Diablo was run around in circles and plop down the... I think I was playing as a... Yeah, I must have been playing as a wizard, so that would have been the Hydra, which basically the Hydra is kind of like a turret. It can't be killed, it just sort of... You plop it down and it attacks anything that's in its range. Really useful, but essentially my Diablo fight would consist of me running around for 10 minutes, keeping the Hydra down, and hoping that Diablo wouldn't randomly get a hit on me and kill me. And so after I'd written that review, and it... I mean, sort of, I may be a little biased on that, but... Oh, there he is, the Wraith Lord. Oh, he's dead. But I really think it was well written and well argued, and I certainly didn't, you know, turn offensive or anything. I didn't insult anyone over it. I didn't sort of, you know, degenerate into foul language. It was all really did I pick up the thing I wanted to pick up? I dearly hope so. It was all reasonable and fine. And my post was removed within an hour, and I was banned from the forums for 2 weeks. And the reason that I was given was that I wasn't allowed to post a review. No, actually, I think the phrasing was something like, it is not desired for people to post negative reviews who have spent less than 100 hours in the game. So, and that was by some, in some official capacity, some mod or other on the forums. Basically banned me for 2 weeks because unless I'd played through the game on Inferno, I wasn't allowed to say that the game was bad, basically. That's what it boiled down to. And there's some of that still going on in the community where they're saying, well, if you're not playing on hardcore, then your opinion isn't valid. So someone's saying, I think this and this defensive skill is completely useless because it's just so situational. And then he got some fairly intense, I don't know, hate sounds overkill, but I'll actually do the quick thing now to get back to the golden chest. But yeah, you still get people then saying, well, if you don't play hardcore, then you're not playing properly, and so your opinion is not important and we don't have to listen to you and stuff like that. And there's some of that still going on in the community, which that's not quite so nice. I think what I originally wanted to talk about was modding, actually. Because Diablo 3 supports 0 modding. There's pretty much nothing you can do. Any third-party stuff you do to the game will get you banned. Or might get you banned. I mean, there's obviously a chance that, you know, that it's sort of a grey area. Let's say you replace textures, for example. I doubt they'd care too much about that, but I mean, you know what I mean. Anything that actually changes gameplay, you will get banned for. And Torchlight 2 took a completely different approach, which for a small game is much smarter. They basically...
Who goes there? Think you can help me?
Okay, so he's basically saying we can't go through here, so we need to get explosives, basically. And for a small game... Oh, that's the bell. I think I needed that for something. Giving your community the ability to add new features to the game is just brilliant. Because you're not paying them, it's essentially people doing it for fun, producing more content for others to play. So even if you yourself don't have the manpower or the time or the resources to constantly be adding new stuff to the game, you can just say, okay, you know what guys, this is how you do it, go for it. Okay, so this is actually the place I wanted to be. I'll put the map on the side here to be a little less annoying, and I'll add the bell, which makes Cackle Spit spawn. And yeah, she wants something, and that's actually the last thing I really wanted in this area, so... And by giving the players the opportunity to mod the game, if you have an active modding community, that basically produces an almost everlasting stream of content that you don't have to do anything about, but it's still seen as a positive boon to your game's replayability. It's smart, especially if you're in a position where you can reasonably do it. Especially with a game that's not always online, like Diablo 3, it's much easier to do those things. There's a stronger distinction between single player and multiplayer. Okay, I need to kill 3 things or rather I need to go to 3 locations to find a Mask of a Murderer and Thorns as Hard as Iron and the Black Heart of a Coward. Hey, thank you. For a certain potion that Cackle Spit is going to brew for us. And the Arena of Slaughter. It's a nice little mini place, but not particularly interesting or difficult.
You have received a quest.
You shall make a nice addition to my eternal slaves.
I'm wondering if I can do this only using the blazing pillars, because they do have quite a recharge, so might not be the best of ideas. But as I said, they are homing projectiles or homing pillars, so might be possible. I don't know, maybe it's a little boring. Let me do this instead. Which is totally not boring, right? But yeah, this has led to a mod being developed for Torchlight called the Synergies mod, and that's it's still in active development. They're still patching it very regularly, adding actually new stuff, and that mod has done so much. It's a complete rebalancing and reworking of the game, adding new items, new skills, new classes, new pets, new everything. It's really, really huge and really, really interesting. And that by itself is, it's essentially like a whole new game, but developed by people who just like the game. It doesn't cost the developers anything. They just improve their game by default, essentially. Just by the fact that some people are working on it still. And that's a huge, huge advantage to giving the community modding abilities. It just adds so much depth to the game because nobody is locked into playing the game a certain way, essentially. There's all sorts of mods. There's, as always in
You have completed a quest.
Grom's Fireblade, cool. As always in games like that, there's some people to whom the game is too difficult. For those, there's mods that make it easier. There are some for whom the game is too hard. No, for some, the game's too easy. That's what I meant to say. So for those, there will be mods that make it more difficult. And all that stuff. Something, you know, you should be able to transfer gold between your characters. There's a mod for that. Something you should be able to store more stuff in the chest. Yep, there's a mod for that.
Your pet is wounded.
If you have any such problems with Diablo 3, well, if you don't like duck, you're rather stuck, essentially. Yeah, I'm trying to be a little coherent here, but it really doesn't work out. Okay. And by the way, as rewards for this quest, we can get inferior boots, 1 physical armor, a pair of shoes that appears to have been chewed by rats, even more inferior boots, one of them appears to be missing a sole, and finally Sweet 8, 243,602 health loss over 13.33 minutes. Yeah. And it actually does that, it basically kills you. So, actually terrible rewards. Not just because I am overgeared at this point, but positively terrible. Even if you were still in your starting equipment, those would be terrible rewards. Okay, yeah, that's where I have to go. Because we've already been through these areas, I'm just doing a quick teleporting thing. The gate's now open. And just because it works out that way, I think I can stop here and start a new episode. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.